You know what bothered me the most about the Skull Merchant release? No, you didn't accidentally click on a different video. This is still about the Trickster, no worries. The thing that I hated the most about the Skull Merchant's release was the community's oddly bizarre assertion that the Skull Merchant did not fit Dead by Daylight's aesthetic. It was everywhere. She doesn't look like she belongs. She looks different to what we have. Like, am I high, or did you all forget that Trickster was in the game? The neon-colored flamboyant BTS ripoff has always stood out to me as one of the most uniquely designed Down by the Shoreline's killer. Aesthetically wise, he fits comfortably into my top 3 right next to Dredge and Deathslinger. I mean, horror is such a diverse genre, and I like to think of Daylight by the Gravesite as a celebration of all horror has to offer. We're just missing some good psychological thriller themes, perhaps a killer power that makes survivors question their life choices and whether everything around them is real. Oh wait, I forgot. The Legion exists. You'll have plenty of time to contemplate the meaning of life while you're mending for the 900th time. And honestly, we could have so much more with the Trickster. I wasn't playing during that chapter release, but I can only imagine what my disappointment would have been like if I'd have been there. No neon-styled city map. Hell, even having a small main street with the main building being a large concert hall with a stage, dead bodies in the seats watching a show that never ends. It would have been so cool to witness. Someday I might make a video on the missed potential maps we could have had with certain killers like Trickster, Twins, Pinhead, etc, etc. I honestly love Trickster so much, from his aesthetics to his voice lines to the concept of his power. The Trickster is an interesting case to me because, one, why is he called the Trickster? He doesn't trick anything. He should have been called the Knife Slinger or the 8th BTS member. But more interesting to me is the concept of the power. The Showstopper allows you to hold on to 44 knives base kit. If you run out, you can reload at lockers, which takes 4 mind-numbing seconds, but I'm not too worried about that part. We have much bigger fish to fry, and it's honestly kind of balanced. It's so you can't just quickly reload and chase and then go back to being wee 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 wee. I have no idea what that noise was, don't ask. Without add-ons, you will eventually build up throwing speed, and once that throwing speed hits max, your movement speed slows way down. Exact numbers, according to the wiki, are 3.86 when not firing, and 3.68 once the maximum fire rate has been reached. Now, the wiki has a lot of math and breakdowns about the power that, to be honest, I can't find an interesting or funny way to work naturally into the script, but additional information you need to know is that your recoil is unlike anything else in any other game you've ever played. The Trickster alternates his throwing hand, so the imaginary crosshair you have moves left and right as he swaps, but the movement is hardly noticeable in chase, so you can end up missing knives you really feel like you should have hit. Each knife you land will increase a laceration meter on the survivors. After 6 hits, the survivor will lose a health state, and this is the main thing that separates Trickster from the other 2 ranged killers in the game, Huntress and Deathslinger. Both of them deal in burst damage. 1 spear hit or 1 hatchet results in 1 health state loss. In the case of Slinger, he has to hit you while you're injured to down you, but you'll always end up deep wounded regardless. Because of this, the Trickster is often considered the weakest of the 3 ranged killers, and I don't fully disagree. Between the slow walking speed and the awkward aim of his knives, 6 hits isn't difficult, but it isn't easy either. All it takes is a tall wall or a sharp corner or so, and suddenly you'll find yourself not being able to quite land that last knife, and sometimes the knives can actually be detrimental. Landing a 6 hit on a healthy survivor who's a certain distance away from you will trigger their speed boost and send them careening off into the distance, where your knives get harder to aim and they have more further cover to work with. So the knives are hard to aim, you move at a snail's pace while you have them out, and you move slower as you throw them, and you can actually give a survivor stupid amounts of distance by using them. So far, you might wonder why you even use knives. Well, they have some advantages, not many though. For example, the knives can go pretty far, 128 meters, which is across map in most cases. So sometimes you can do some cheeky scare tactics by tossing them at a hook survivor to scare away from someone coming for a save, or tossing them at a generator you know someone's working on to try to trigger something like DMS or just get them off the gen. And at short wall loops, they are a really powerful anti-loop tool. You can look over the wall and actually aim at survivors, and even them crouching behind the wall, if they don't crouch just right, you can kind of get yourself into this really good position where you can still hit them. They are small enough also to fit through some cracks and crevices, so you can pull off some cheeky hits in certain shacks, and my personal favorite are the large racks on Gideon's meat plant that have like the little barrels and stuff on them. Those small holes where you can see the survivor on the other side, you can actually throw the knives through those, even if you're like standing point blank to the wall, and it throws people off a lot. However, the absolute worst part of his kit has to be the double-edged sword that is the main event. After landing 30 lacerations, you will receive a timer of 30 seconds. Within those 30 seconds, you have to press your second ability button, and the Trickster will instantly pull knives out of the fucking ether and toss them at a max throw rate with max movement speed, which is again only 3.86, don't get too excited. The duration of the main event is 10 seconds, during which you have legitimately unlimited knives. 10 seconds of constant max throw rate, max movement speed, unlimited knives. It sounds amazing, but trust me, it's not. Where do I begin here? Okay, so the good thing, if you're ever at the end game and you have this up with all 4 survivors alive and coming for a save, you can easily land at least a 3K. I've come back from more than a few games with this before, because when there's unlimited knives and they are all running away in a straight line, no amount of BT or body blocking is going to save them all. And if they 99 the gate, they are fucked. But that's where the advantages end. You're supposed to use the main event as a form of crowd control. 2 or more survivors together, you pop it and they go down. The problem, as you might have guessed, is the 30-second timer. You will almost never be in a position where the main event can be activated and you'll actually get value. And you'll find yourself popping it just to pop it because you have 5 seconds left in the window and you might as well. And it's often a very wasted part of his kit. You almost never are going to use this thing to actually do what it's supposed to do. So with all this on the table, how do we fix it? All of Trickster's problems stem from 2 issues. The knives as they stand are too weak to matter, they don't do enough to justify using them outside of very specific situations, and 2, they are awkward to use. The first thing I'd like to do is when the knives are out is move Trickster's movement to 4.0. I know Huntress moves at only 3.08, but let's be realistic here. Moving at the same speed as the survivors and having the larger hitbox means you still won't catch up with the knives, but it'll still help you in the looping situations. Because Trickster does not do any burst damage and because he is completely reliant on landing multiple knives, there's absolutely no reason he should not move at the same sprint speed as survivors so that he can actually use them within loops. Number 2, having the throwing speed of the knives be constant. Ramping up the throwing speed means you'll have to spend more time in chase to get the actual value out of your power, and realistically that's just stupid. There's no reason I should have to purposely waste time just to do what the power should do in the first place. And finally, and this is going to be the most controversial change, I assure you, we need to make the purple add-ons Trick Blades, Edge of Revival album, and Cut Through You single base kit. Before you freak out, hear me out. This man is called the Trickster, yet all he does is throw knives in a straight line very slowly with nothing more to them. The one change I would make in the transition is that the knives only ricochet once instead of twice before exploding, and the ricochet only applies 50% laceration. With all these being base kit, the knives do a lot more and will feel a lot better to use. It'll also increase the skill ceiling of the Trickster. Can you imagine the amount of, well, trick shots you could pull off? The clips of lining up 2 survivors perfectly, like there's so many situations and possibilities with all of these being base kit. And this also directly buffs the main event. Speaking of, the main event needs to be fixed to have a window of activation of 60 to 90 seconds. I don't really know which one I think would be better, but I originally thought of making it permanent until activation, but then I remembered what I said about the basement 4-man out into an easy 3K. I mean, granted, I don't know if it'd be a viable strategy, but I could see Trickster players just holding on to the main event with something like No Way Out all game before popping it in the end game for a free win. Now let's talk about add-ons. Realistically speaking, I believe the Trickster add-ons are some of the best designed in the game. They're simplistic, but they're effective. Most of them are basics: increased knife count, movement speed with knives, throw rate, etc., etc. The iridescent add-ons are some of my favorites in the game, but if you'll recall exactly 3 paragraphs ago where I mentioned making 3 of them base kit, so question, what do we do with those? Here are my replacements. Trick Blades. Add an extra 2 ricochets to the blade, can now bounce blades off the floor and ceilings, but reduces the throw rate by 20%. Edge of Revival album. Knives now stick to the survivor, detonating after 1.5 seconds and dealing 25% laceration to any survivor within 5 meters of the stuck survivor. The stuck survivor is unaffected by the detonation. Cut Through You single. Knives now pure walls when thrown from your hand. Any survivor hit with a knife through the wall receives a 25% laceration. To make this clear, it means that when you first throw a knife, it will go through any wall you throw it through, and then the base kit ricochets and explosions will kick in along with any other add-ons you have. So theoretically, you could pair it with something like the Trick Blades, have it cut through a wall, bounce 3 times before exploding after the ricochets are done. With these changes, we add more utility and versatility to the knives, and you would truly have a Trickster and not just some dude flinging knives. I think that these are all incredibly important, not only to increasing his potential and bringing him up from the very low C tier that he currently sits at, but I think it would also just play more into what he's supposed to be, and I find that exciting. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.